Hello, welcome back to Book Nerd TV. Today we're going to discuss two books that I read in December that I enjoyed overall, even though there were a couple of issues perhaps with the books. Nothing to not make you read the books, but definitely something for you to consider should you pick up either book. The books we're discussing today are The Night Tiger by Yangtze Choo and The Secrets We Kept by Lara Prescott. The story The Night Tiger tells is of a young 11-year-old boy named Ren, and he works for a doctor, an older doctor who is in the process of dying. The doctor has asked Ren to retrieve a part of his body, a severed finger, and return it to his grave within 49 days of his passing, so that his spirit will not wander the earth in a state of unrest because his entire body, was not buried together. Upon the death of the doctor, Ren sets out to find the missing severed finger and to reunite it with his body so that the doctor's spirit can be at rest and at peace. Accompanying Ren as he goes along this journey is the spirit of his twin brother Yi. And as twins often do, the two, Ren and Yi, have a language that they are able to communicate with each other. This language was, of course, much stronger when they were alive, but Ren can still feel his twin brother speaking to him, talking to him, and he even sometimes dreams of his brother Yi. The narrative then shifts to Jin Lee, who is a smart young lady. She has done very well in school. She even wanted to go on to university, but her stepfather doesn't believe that women should be educated, apparently beyond high school. And so while her stepbrother, Jin Lee's stepbrother, gets to go off to medical school, Jin Lee is just sort of stuck at home. She has not married yet. So that complicates the matters for the stepfather, who just wants her to get married and get out of his house. Jin Lee is working as a seamstress to help pay off debts that her mother incurred that she doesn't want the stepfather to know about. And she's also working part-time as a dance hall girl to supplement the income because apparently the mother's debts were fairly significant. It's while Jin Lee is at the dance hall that she runs into a gentleman who dances with her, tries to get a little fresh with her, and is chased out of the dance hall. But in the process of this gentleman being chased out of the dance hall, he loses a little vial, and in the vial is a severed finger. And that is how Miss Choo starts to weave together this narrative about the severed finger, about Ren and Yi and Jin Lee and her stepbrother, whose name I can't remember right now. And this is how Choo begins to wrap into the narrative the 5 Confucian virtues. And I thought that was pretty well done. Let me just say that Choo really is a very good writer. I think her ability to set the place of the 1930s Malaysia with these magical realist elements is just, the writing was so vivid for me. It created these I could just see the places in my mind as I read the book. I could see the lush forest. I could see the houses. I could see the roads that they traveled down. I could see the little cities. I could see the university or the medical center where some of the action takes place. It was just her ability. I just really have to give it to Miss Choo. She is a fantastic writer. However, I think so let me just say this. My pros for the book: amazing world building, beautiful, elegant writing. I love the way Miss Choo writes her story or creates her story. I love the way she weaves in the Malaysian myth of like were-tigers. I love the way she kind of wraps around the Confucian virtues to tell this story. It really just gives a very rich world in which the action or the elements of the story happen. So I enjoy that. The character development was distinct enough. The voices were different, so I enjoyed that. The cons for me in this book would be the relationship between the between Jin Lee and her stepbrother. So they're not genetically related, although they grew up together in the same house. I think when Jin Lee was maybe 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 or something like that, somewhere in there. They were maybe elementary school age when the parents got married. And so you can tell already that you are the one. I love you, but I can't love you because we're sister and brother, and the parents wouldn't approve, and blah 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 blah. So I found that particular arc annoying. I also found, even though Jilin is a smart woman, smart young lady, who has this desire to be independent, who has this desire to go further than maybe her family, stepfather specifically, has in mind for her. Her desire to rebel against that, her folding of her personality when it comes to her stepbrother, I found that annoying. I found it annoying. That's all I have to say about that. I will say overall, I enjoyed the book a great deal. I would recommend that you read it, again, because you get some Malaysian folklore, you get just a little bit of Confucianism thrown in there. You get this really interesting 1930s Malaysian world. There are, of course, elements of colonialism and this sort of imperialist sort of treatment of the locals. And so there were those problematic elements there. So not enough to make me put the book down. And I don't think enough to make anybody else put the book down. But if you're particularly sensitive about that kind of stuff, just be aware that it's in there. So would I recommend that you read The Night Tiger? Absolutely. Just a couple of caveats, but I think that overall you will enjoy The Night Tiger. The second book I read in December is The Secrets We Kept by Lara Prescott. Now, let me just say, a couple of the booktubers that I watched, some of my favorite booktubers, spoke about this book. A couple of them really enjoyed the book. One or two really didn't enjoy the book. And it's quite clear that we are not all the same person. Our tastes are not the same, and so consequently, you get these variations in thoughts about a particular book, which is something that I actually love. I believe that's one of the good things about BookTube, is just regular everyday people can read a particular book and give you their opinion, and all of the opinions won't be the same. But that's good, because not everyone will like every book, and not every book is for everyone. So there you go. I enjoyed The Secrets We Kept. I liked the setting of the 1950s, 40s, 50s Cold War setting. The initial premise of the book is that there are these, well, let me say in the synopsis suggested that we would be treated to this story about these secretaries who became spies, who worked on a very real project by the CIA to get this book by Boris Pasternak, Dr. Zhivago, to print, not just to print, but to print in Russia so that the Russian people could read it, because it was part of the propaganda against the USSR. This story is told from several different points of view. One of them is Olga, who is Boris Pasternak's mistress and muse, as they say. And I read that more than just in this book. She is also kind of sort of works as an agent regarding some of his works. Not necessarily Dr. Zhivago, although she's aware that he's writing this book and that it's like this is the book that he was meant to write, and it means a great deal to him. There is, you sense a little bit of tension between her and Pasternak, because of course Pasternak's married. He lives with his wife. And then here's Olga, who loves him and is his mistress, and is also involved in his work, and is sent to the gulag because of Pasternak's work, and does like 6 or 7 years in the gulag away from her 2 children and her mother. So there's that thread of the story between Pasternak and Olga. Then we have the American side of the story that involves a Russian immigrant named Irina. Now, Irina's parents immigrated from Russia, and so she speaks Russian like a native because her parents were, of course, native to Russia. And Irina is an underemployed woman, and she's looking for work, and she runs across a notice for a secretary at the CIA. They are immediately interested in her because, of course, she is of Russian descent and she speaks Russian fluently. And so they are looking at her from the outset as more than just a secretary, but as possibly an operative in the Russian theater, because they've got this whole the CIA is already aware of Pasternak writing this book, and so they're trying to use this book again as a tool of propaganda to get this information or this book out to the people who are in Russia, the people of Russia, not necessarily the government, the ruling body in Russia. Irina is trained to be a spy or an agent, but her real training is supposed to come through Sally Forrester, who was hired on at the CIA as a receptionist, even though everyone already knows that she's not a receptionist. And so let me cut back to the point that when Irina is hired as a secretary, she joins a secretary pool. And you get just a little bit of information about the different ladies who are the secretaries, and you come to realize that these are women of diverse-ish backgrounds and experiences and education levels, and how they are stymied at the level of secretary simply because they're women. So that is a very real issue for women in that time, is being relegated to these sort of lesser roles, not because you're not intelligent enough to do the things that the men are doing, but because you're a woman. The secretaries, of course, are not stupid. You know, they can see and they already know that there's more to Irina's hire than just her being a secretary. And when Sally Forrester is brought on as a receptionist, they already know, okay, well, there's more to her than just being a receptionist. Clearly, we're not stupid. So anyway, we cut away from the secretaries and back to Irina and Sally, who they end up having sort of falling in love at first sight with each other, which, okay, that's really a very tired trope, but neither here nor there. So you've got that relationship between Irina and Sally, very rocky, very I like you, but I can't tell you, miscommunication trope contained within the love at first sight trope that I find incredibly annoying. So that's maybe to me not some of the better parts of the book. Also, the fact that the secretary pool, as it were, was given an extreme short shrift. Really don't like that, because in the synopsis, you're thinking that you're going to find out more about the secretaries and sort of what they do within this operation, and you don't. It centers on Sally and Irina and the what they call the western part of the story, and then the story centers on Olga and Pasternak in the eastern part of the story. I was disappointed because we didn't get more information about the secretaries, but just to say that there are some strains and some plot points that for me just didn't really work as well as I would have hoped that they would. There were maybe more interesting characters, Secretary Poole, who could have given us a lot more, a more well-rounded story as far as the western side went. On the eastern side, I thought, for as little as I know about Dr. Zhivago in the first place, or Boris Pasternak, I'm aware of him, I'm aware of the book, but I've never read the book, never really read anything about the author. So The Secrets We Kept has actually ignited a little bit of a fire under me to perhaps read Dr. Zhivago, maybe read up just a little bit more, because I did, your basic Wikipedia search for Boris Pasternak. And it was fairly interesting. And if I'm not mistaken, Olga actually wrote a book about her experience through this time as well. So there's some actual firsthand documentation that can be found to sort of supplement this book, The Secrets We Kept. So again, would I recommend that you read the book? Yes, I would recommend that you read the book with the understanding that you're really not going to get the story that you thought you were going to get from the synopsis. It's a good story. It may spark your interest in Dr. Zhivago and Boris Pasternak, and possibly even the 1950s Cold War era government work in the United States. I don't know. As I said in the beginning, I definitely enjoyed both books. I would definitely recommend that you read both books. Both books are perfectly entertaining to good, right? And would I read something else by either one of the authors? I think I would, definitely. That's all I have for you today, book nerds. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please leave me a like. And if you're enjoying the content thus far, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. I would greatly appreciate it. And remember, if you want to be notified every time I post a new video, go ahead and hit the notification bell. As always, no matter what you may have to do within your day, there is always, always time to read. Have a great day.